So I'm back at Countryside Customs out in New Braintree, Massachusetts. Little back road, kind of hard to find. You'd never know it's here. Hidden away, quiet, just the way they like it. Going to check in on some shop progress. We've been here before. Go back and check out some of the other videos on the channel, and you'll see what we started, and we're checking on some progress. We're going to do a little bit of watching some of the work be done, and give you kind of an idea or a feel for what it takes to do a real high quality job. So my name's Mark from Let's Go Car Cruising. Let's go inside and check it out. All right, Ben, what else we got going on in the shop today?
So these things, I know you've seen both of these cars before, but
They were in different places,
Yep.
so something's happened,
Yep,
right?
they're all, everything's painted, the underside's all bed lined, engine bay's all done in the matte finish. So now it's assembly. So we started putting the suspension together, and that's just put stuff together, get a parts list, put stuff together, get a parts list. But the rear suspension's put together, fuel tanks in, the thermal barrier, acoustic barrier stuff is in on the inside. This thing is just a quick paint job, so I think we're going to end up doing the assembly on it now for them. Both cars need to be cut and buffed, so that'll happen somewhere in the middle of assembly, because we don't want to go too far with assembly where we don't sand and buff around door handles or trim or anything like that. But we're going to try to get enough of the stuff together where the suspension's in, it's a roller, stuff like that. So we'll do that. And then a car we painted a while ago that the owner was putting together is a 64 Impala, and they've decided to have us just do the assembly on it. So we'll do the cut and buff on those parts and then assembly.
So were those painted back when the car was painted?
A while ago, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Adam's truck.
The truck is back.
We don't want to talk about that right now.
Yeah, that wasn't supposed to come back, but
Well,
life goes on.
I'm glad it came back. It's just I'm not happy with the condition it came back in. So that's a story for a different day.
Right.
GTO, that's been here forever. We're getting close to wrapping this up finally. Then this is a car that we're putting a rear bumper on for a guy's daughter. We did his Corvette, and we inherit the small stuff too.
Small stuff, but
Yep.
it keeps the lights on.
The Roadrunner that we're doing the buffing thing on. And then on this side, it's mostly construction, and Kenny and Kevin are doing the Firewall modifications on the 37.
All right, what are we measuring here, Kevin?
We're going to be drawing a bunch of lines so we can cut this firewall out. So, we need a starting point.
And the body's already on the frame. We don't not taking
Body's
that
on the
off.
frame.
Or, yeah.
The body's on the frame, but it's on there crooked.
Okay.
The frame probably has a little dip. It's the original frame, who knows? So, I'm sure they found out when they were setting the body after all the fab work, or it could have been the fab work that did it. But they got everything shimmed out and sitting where it's supposed to sit. So this is our starting point. We're not going to go backwards.
So the firewall's coming out?
Yes. So when this pole was set in, it was set in too far to the right.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to try to move everything to the left.
For the steering column to come through at a proper place. Okay.
And valve covers hit here and here.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to try to do everything in one move. So we'll cut these back.
Yeah.
And just take this whole piece and just widen it. So we'll take a slice out back here.
Right. It's all a part of putting something in it that didn't belong in it initially, right?
Right.
Yeah. So is this just a mock-up to see if it fits?
Yeah, figuring out, we had to modify the firewall, and we're changing a bunch of stuff with the valve covers and intake, and so.
Well, now you've got clearance room over there.
Yep.
For a bigger valve cover.
Yeah, there's a bigger valve cover.
Get out a grinder and
Just start cutting.
just start cutting.
Well, no, the one that, I don't know, there's one somewhere.
So I'm gonna do something here. Taking it back.
Yeah, we could make a small piece that comes in here. Because I don't like that this line goes here and this line goes here. We could almost just bring that line down.
The Scout. Oh my God.
Yeah, we ripped that apart. It's easy to rip them apart. It's easy to rip them apart, but now we got to figure out where we're going from there. Building a body, donor body, it's pretty rough.
Was it surprising or what you expected?
Both.
Both. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Welcome to New England, right?
Right. So I don't know. We're going back and forth. We're not sure if they're going to get another body, but it's still roll the dice. You know, you get a body that looks good, and then you strip it down, and it's not as good as you think. So you're doing a ton of metal work anyway. So
Right.
we're not really sure, but we'll figure it out.
This is what happens in New England. Rusty crust. And more rusty crust. And some issues on the floors. Yay. All right, so what do we got going on with this one, Ben? What's it in for?
All right, so this is a 69 Roadrunner 446 pack, black. He had some issues with the hood and this rear package tray, or whatever you want to call it, the intermediate panel between the deck lid and the glass. We fixed it, repainted it, and then this is your aftermath of painting. So people act like they all come out perfect and all that stuff, and they come out nice, but still some dirt, still some texture, and there's a couple marks in there because we had to put a bag on it a little early to dust some primer on something, but that all sands off. So what we're gonna do is kind of go through, this will be your first how-to video, I guess.
Okay.
So we're gonna walk through the steps that we use on some of them. Like this car, it's not a show car, it's a nice car, but it's not built for shows. So it's a 3 coats of clear. We're gonna start with 1,000, work our way up to 3,000, and then we'll go through the buffing process. Whereas some of the show cars, you might put 5, 6 coats of clear on it and start with 600 or 800. We don't need to do that. If you saw the rest of the car, it's very nice, but it's not laser straight, dead flat. We're just blending into what the rest of the car is. So we don't want to go too crazy and then have it stick out like a sore thumb, because the idea here is to look like we weren't there. So that's what we're going to do, and I think 1,000 is kind of the sweet spot. We redid the hood, and when we did that, we did that with 1,000 grit, and everything looked pretty close to the outside. It's probably a little bit flatter than what the rest of the car is, but we also don't want to make it look crappy on purpose. So
Right, it's got to match.
It's got to match, and it's still got to be tastefully done. I'd rather somebody look at it and say it's too nice than look at it and say it's worse than the rest of the car. So just taping up our edges so that we don't get into the quarter panels. And yeah, we'll grab some sandpaper. We do everything wet.
So how long's the paint been on there?
This has only been on there for 4 or 5 days. If this was a full build, we'd let it sit for a few weeks even before we'd start doing it, just to let everything dry, harden, gas off, and that way there, if you're, especially if you're putting 5 or 6 coats of clear on there, but you want everything to get out of there so that when you're doing your sand and polish, you're only doing it once, and you don't have something drying and shrinking after you're already went through the whole process of getting everything flat and looking good. Because basically what could happen is if you prematurely sand it and buff it, then time goes on and it's still gassing off, things that you didn't see are going to start showing up. So,
Okay.
you know, like some shrinkage, some texture, even though it looks great and you're all done, put it out in the sun and you might come back to it in a week or two and there could be texture that you know you got out, but it's found its way back because it continues to sink. So, but 3 coats of clear, a few days. We had the heat for the booth kicked on, and then it's been 70 degrees in here every day. So this thing's pretty well cured. And honestly, even if we sand it down flat and it dries a little bit and shrinks a little bit, it's probably gonna match the rest of the car a little bit better than being dead flat.
Okay.
So 1000 grit, we just let them soak. I like to use, I have a variety of blocks for both bodywork and wet sanding, but we use the Jason Kilmer blocks. It's an acrylic block that he makes, and he puts a little bit of a foam. It's not a full foam, it's a semi-rigid foam on one side, some of them are softer, and then acrylic on the other side, so you can either sand to get dead flat or sand to refine the scratch. So these are a nice set of blocks. And there's a whole bunch of different ones, so you kind of pick the one that fits the area that you're doing, and you run with it. So
The right tools help.
yeah, the right tools help. Actually,
Back on.
Yep. So small block, 1000 grit. I'm only using the foam side on this. Again, we're not going for dead flat. We're just going to knock down the texture. And I'm sure there's, I already know, there's 1,000 different ways to do this. Everybody has their own way. I'm not saying this is the best way, this is just the way that we've kind of adapted to do it. And what we'll do is we'll go across this whole thing, knock down all the texture, and then we'll put some white guide coat on it, and we'll go back across it, and that's going to show us what's left, what we missed. And when we're doing it, I always try to do little angles, just so you're not, I want to just keep sanding straight. I think you'll start digging grooves in it. So I cross hatch it just like you'd be doing in body work, just smaller blocks, smaller strokes, and just slowly work the texture out. Not a lot of force on it, because we don't want to dig, we don't want to move anything around. We're just trying to get that orange peel out, trying to get that flatness to come back and knock down any dirt nibs that found their way in there when we were painting. And that's one thing that, people think that you spent all this time, all this money to body work it and get it all ready for paint, and then it's supposed to just be perfect when it's done. And it's like, there's still a whole nother round or a whole nother 4 or 5 rounds of sanding before you can start polishing to make it look good.
Finishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you sand to get bare metal, you sand to get the body filler straight, you sand to get the polyester straight, you sand to get the primer straight, and then you sand to get the clear straight. So it's just a lot of repetitive sanding. And it seems like you're not changing anything, but you are.
The devil is in the details.
That's it.
Well, then that's the difference between production, bodywork repair and custom.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of shops that, even in the custom world, I don't know what the extent of the wet sanding process always is. I mean, I see some really, really nice show cars, and you see some that, they're at the shows, but they didn't necessarily go through all the steps. And
We saw a couple of those at the auction.
yeah, so we're just gonna go through, and some people are as anal as counting their strokes. I don't know if that's helpful or not. Sorry, I'm getting close to you, Mark.
Well, I'm going to switch
but I just kind of cross over, and I don't know how long you can count your strokes for if you're doing an entire car, and then count your strokes and make a match. And I think it's more about feeling it, and you kind of feel when the texture lets go.
Sure.
And you're flat again.
Well, after you do it for a while, you get the feel for it.
Yeah, a little bit.
If you know, you know.
The guide coat is nice, and I kind of just go in both directions just to make sure I'm not digging in one direction. I think it balances everything out and blends it in together. But even still, I mean, I don't know what it looks like in the camera, but it's the paint job itself without being buffed is fairly flat. It's just once it dries, like the day I painted it, it looked really nice. And then you come in the next day and it's got the texture from drying, and as a couple days go on, the texture increases because everything is sinking into the layer below it and drying, and solvents are gassing off, and so it's just a byproduct of the chemistry of the product. It's no wrongdoing, no mistakes made, just the way it is.
All right, so what's this step, Ben? The 1000's done.
Yep. Now we're gonna guide coat the 1000. You can see the other half I've not guide coated yet.
Yep.
And I'm pretty liberal with the guide coat.
So what kind of material, what is that?
So this is Merca dry guide coat, and I'm using white because the car is black.
Sure.
I have black for lighter colors and white for darker.
I'm going the wrong way here.
But you can see we got it pretty flat. Now the guide coat will just show us what we've missed, basically any stray scratches from grabbing a piece of dirt or clogged up paper, any straight line scratches, any texture, nibs that we may have not flattened, but we've pretty well flattened the whole thing. And if this was something that we were trying to do to the 9s, I would re-1000 it with the guide coat now, just to make sure I've got everything knocked out flat and not have to go back and chase it. But I would think we're pretty well flat. You can see through it a little bit and see that there's no nibs poking up. So we're just going to move to 1500 because again, you can see the texture in the quarter panels is not dead flat. So there's no sense in spending a bunch of time.
You can't make it too good because then it looks odd.
It's going to stand out, yeah. And not only that, but you're just wasting people's money. So if we were doing the whole car, we'd do every panel the same and go over it and double check it, triple check it. But this one, we know it's going to be right there. So we'll move to 15, refine the scratches, and then we're moving to 2000 and 3000 pretty quick. So we'll be able to start buffing. So
Okay.
all right.
So you go over this, you finish guide coating it.
Yep, I'll finish guide coating it, and then I'll just wipe it down and start sanding again with 1500.
Get all the extra dust off, kind of rub it in.
Oh, so it stays there, some of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
the stuff that you want stays there. So,
So I've never seen this either, so okay. See, you taught me something today.
that's good. Yeah, what we want to stay stays. I mean, I could have been probably a little bit even more liberal with this and pressed it in a little harder, but again, it's not a full build, full cut and buff. So it's just, we're still using guide coat just to kind of be fundamental about it, but I pretty much know that we're beyond where we need to be. So I'm just going to refine the scratch and get buffing sooner than later. The other hard part about this particular project is we're not doing the repairs around the rest of the car painted very often. You know, it doesn't make it easy to try to not scratch something while you're doing a designated little spot, but we're making it work. So
it'd be easier if it were the whole car.
yeah, in a way, because you wouldn't care if you're getting compound on the rest of the car. You wouldn't have a vinyl top and trim to work around, and same with the hood. I'll pull the cover up on the hood. We already finished the hood, but that we had to fix a few dents and ripples and waves that were left behind after this thing was redone. And the hood has that air grabber center scoop, and it's got, I think it's called Organzol Black. That's like a textured finish, stripes for it, and that was all a lot of stuff to work around and try to still make our work straight and flat and nice.
But not too nice to contrast with the rest of the car.
Yeah,
So it all works.
yeah. So this is probably going to be boring content, but for the people that are interested in it, I've watched plenty of videos of other guys what's inning and buffing, and as boring as it is, you just start taking it all in and seeing if you're missing something, and I'm probably missing something that someone else will correct me on, but I do enjoy the conversation of techniques.
Sure, absolutely. So this is the 1500. Does it feel different to you?
Well, it's not dragging because you got most of the texture out, so you're just really gliding across it, and you could probably even get away with just a really soft sponge pad right now, but I figured for the sake of the video and making sure that this thing doesn't have any little surprise nibs or anything like that, we'll just use the same block we were using. Just keep kind of doing the same stuff that we were. So I go across it this direction, and then I'll switch to a new piece of paper. Well, a couple pieces of paper actually, but we'll go across this way, and then we'll go across with my left hand from bottom to top.
So you're ambidextrous.
I'm not, but in this process, I attempt to be, I guess. Thank you. I got like my other pads. Squeeze it out. You can see the guide coat goes away.
Yeah.
And we'll detail the whole car before it leaves, but you can see the guide coat's gone. It's flat. It's got, it's pretty even. We'll go across it with a sponge pad the softer the pad, the more even the scratches will get, but it also will ride any ripples or waves or texture. So it's like you got to start out with the harder block to cut through the fat, and then you go to a softer block to refine the scratch and blend it all together so that you don't have, a 1500 grit scratch over here, or even a straight line scratch, and then a refined 3000 grit scratch over here. Okay. So the soft blocks, they have their purpose, and the acrylic blocks have theirs, and we do a blend of both of them. So
Cool.
I'll cut through the rest of it and then check back in. But just doing the 2000 using a sponge block, just nice and soft. I'll still go in both directions, and this is really just to take out the 1500 grit scratches and just to even out the panel. And then we'll move to 3000 on a dual action sander. And after that, we're starting to polish.
So I'm getting a grasp of how long this takes and how tedious this process is just for this small patch.
Yeah.
What kind of time does it take to do a whole car?
They're all different, but so Charlie Hutton, who's a famous car builder.
Yes.
He had a quote in a magazine I read years ago that said, "Gap everything like it's white, block everything like it's black," and I think that goes the same for buffing it. Just if you sand and polish them all like they're black, then you'll be in good shape, and black shows a lot. So
No, not just a lot, everything.
Yeah. So there's other colors that are, black always gets a bad name for showing everything, but there's other colors that'll show things in a different way that you don't really want them to show. And, but black, that reflection is just, it's a glass. It's glass when it's right, and it's ocean when it's wrong. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a loaded question. I mean, I think it kind of depends on the end goal, even the time of year, because in the summer things, you know, the humidity can screw with things, and then you start sanding it and it still seems soft underneath, and now you're trying to fight the, you know, the soft clear. And when I was younger, I used to think that the soft clear was good because you could manipulate it and it felt like you were doing a lot. But then this goes back to not being fully cured, and a couple weeks go by and now you got stuff popping up that you didn't see before, and you're not sure how you missed it, but it's really just the drying process. So I kind of like the clear to be as cured and as hard as possible, even if it means that your sanding and polishing takes a little bit longer. You know that what you see is what you get. And
You're doing it once.
yeah, you're doing it once. I mean, yeah, you're doing it once. You might be doing it again in between shows with people touching it and stuff, but
Right.
you're doing the cut and polish once. But yeah, I mean, you could spend, I mean, I've heard crazy stories, and they used to make me think they were crazy, but now it's like, just how nuts do you want to go, and how many spots that people aren't going to see are you still buffing, you know? Like, we're starting to get to the point, or we are at the point where we've been buffing the door jambs and under the hood, and so there goes your clock. That just, the amount of time it takes to buff a door jamb or underneath the hood is a lot. It's all tedious. So I think you could spend anywhere from a week to wet sand a car and buff a car to a month or more. So
All depending
it's a
on
little
how
bit of a
crazy
loaded
you're going to
question.
go.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a loaded question, but that's no different than asking how long it takes to bodywork a car. I mean, you could put a car in primer in a week, but it's, you know, Jeff Ryder always says, pay me now or pay me later. I think that's one of those ones where you put it in primer just to say you have it in primer. You're going to be going backwards quite a bit if you want it to look good. So I don't know if that made the answer or that just made everything more confusing.
It does, yeah. Well, because a lot of people, myself to a degree included, don't understand. And and there's a difference between, you know, a cheap paint job and a custom masterpiece.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that, but just because you're throwing a bunch of time at it doesn't mean you're doing it right either. You know?
Correct.
So I think we're trying to, and I think we're pretty good, but trying to maintain the good results, but increase in efficiency and stretch people's money as far as you can. Because one of the hard things is that when you get to this stage of wet sanding and buffing, they've already spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
So now you're asking them to pay you for another month to just wet sand and buff it, and they thought they were done when they saw the color and clear on it. That's a hard conversation to say, you know, can you give me another 15 grand to keep going? So we're trying to balance all that out and make sure that our customers aren't going broke over their cars, but also, you know, we're not getting rich doing it either. So it's trying to balance that, pay us for our time, and we're doing the best we can, and we want the car to look nice, and living in reality of what people can really afford on a toy.
Because that's all they are.
Yeah. And again, this is a little bit more just kind of not willy-nilly, but we're not keeping the structure the way we would if we were doing a full-blown. This is just a repair and just matching what's there. So
Nobody knows it was done.
I'm sure there's somebody that's going to watch this and say you didn't count your strokes, or you spent longer in one section than the other, and I know. It's going to look, it all will look the same when it leaves. That's kind of it. Cross hatch it the other way. And we're moving on to Trizac 3000. I don't know if you want to check in after I do that, or
I will.
now we're going to start buffing. I kind of skipped over you on the 3000 grit, but I hit it with Trizac 3000 just to go over it, blend everything in, refine the scratch to a 3000 grit. Again, we're kind of moving quick just because you're doing the video, we're doing a touch up. But now we're going to hit it with some compound and a wool pad and start getting some shine back. We're not too worried about scratches or swirls as far as what the buffer is putting in, because we take them out on the next step. This is just to start bringing the shine back, and it'll continue to flatten out the texture at the same time with a wool pad. So, and we do it somewhere around 800-900 RPMs, so pretty slow. And I'll blend it into the old paint. There's a couple scratches right here on the edge anyway, so it's not gonna hurt to just run a polish across this old stuff. Another one of those times where you don't want to get stingy with your compound. I think you kind of want to keep everything nice and cool, even if it takes a little bit longer. The results will be better. You're not going to move anything around. I don't know. Can you hear me while I'm doing it? You think? Okay. So one of the things to keep in mind when you're buffing that you'll learn real quick when you start out, especially with a rotary, is to make sure that when you're spinning off a panel, you're going in the same direction as off. You don't want to cut into that edge because you will burn that corner pretty quick. So try to spin off of it rather than into it, and then rotate. So like when I'm up here, I'll make sure it's spinning that way. And then we get in the middle, kind of fair game. Looks in the camera, but that's wool pad. And then what we'll do,
First round with the wool pad. There you go.
yep. What
Looks
we'll
pretty
do
good.
after is we'll do a foam pad to refine the wool pad marks, and then at the end we'll just go dual action, and that's just going to take out any of the swirls, any haziness, and that's kind of our final wipe down, and she's good to go home. So we're going to finish the buffing in the shop lighting because the paint booth always makes everything look good. We want to make sure we're not missing anything in the low lights and stuff like that, but I wanted to show you the hood quick. So this thing was just all ripples and flutters, and we ended up stripping that organzol black, and Kenny came up with a mixture of bed liner and trim black to recreate the organzol that you can't really get. So if anybody has any questions on the Mopar organzol black, just shoot Mark or myself a message, and we'll kind of walk you through what we did to make it look right. But that's it.
And if you guys focused more on the Instagram, Facebook, just the media aspect, and trying to get like more in depth with posts and content and interviews with people, then it would get more attention. Especially with that truck, like I was on Skulky.
What are we making here, boss?
I'm just taking apart this dash to refurbish and putting it up car there. Taking the old harness out so I can see if we can get this sandblasted, or if I have to just clean it up and paint it to be able to put it back in.
New harness going on it, or?
Probably, yeah. I would assume so.
Cool. So out here in different light.
Yep. And it shows a different story. So you can see some stray scratches, and both in our stuff and the existing car. I'm sure it looked probably really good in there when I'm saying it's not perfect, but it's nice. It's just none of it's perfect. So
Right.
now we're going to recompound it, correct it a little bit more, and then we'll go to the second step and really start refining it. So
But the different light is the key.
yeah, that's the key.
So what's this step, Ben?
So this is the foam pad, same compound, different pad. And
But a rotary, not
still
a...
rotary. Yep.
Yeah.
And then this is just going to refine what we have. And maybe we'll do like a little side to side. I'll go down to the middle and see the difference.
Okay.
Don't worry about the mess. I'll clean it after.
Still slow speed, right?
Yeah, still slow speed. Still 900 RPM. Again, I kind of like do a spot, and then when I go to my next spot, I'll overlap the spot I just did. So you're kind of hitting everything a couple times in case you miss something. I'm just going to hit the leading edge of the deck lid. Just going to tape on there, marks, and stuff like that.
The final cut coming up now, right?
So, trying to get loud.
It's a working shop. It's going to be loud, right?
So you could switch to a different compound. I've had better luck just sticking with number one, just switching to a dual action foam pad. And there's rare occasions where I'll grab the second compound. I don't even know what it's called. It's like a swirl remover, but I find that this stays wetter longer. It cuts it cleaner, clearer, and I'm not getting swirls anyways. So
Right.
I think the pad and the tool are doing more than the compound at that point. And again, doing a how-to video, it opens you up to a criticism. I'm sure there's somebody that's going to say you got to use something, but we're having decent results with this. So
Right. Yep.
we're on this, and
If it works, it works.
yeah.
There you go. Looks pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always going to be something that you want to go back and hit one more time. But yeah, that's not bad, especially in the lighting that we have. We want this lighting will kind of show you just about everything. If it looks good in here, it's going to look good outside. And like I said, these little mini towels I thought were going to be good for the space, but you can't fold them over enough to get the pillow that you want to wipe it softly. So might be switching over to the big one in a minute just to do the final wipe. That's it. And we'll just clean everything, get rid of all the dust. Yeah, there's a couple strays over here just from wiping it in, but we'll hit those, get the paper, all the plastic off, get all the dust out of the way so that we're not dragging stuff back across it, because we're starting to do that a little bit. But again, now we can go in and just put dabs and keep it really low and not worry about compounds swinging up onto the rest of the car. So
Just
we'll do that.
localized.
Yeah, just localize, hit a spot. Like I can see some straight line scratches over here. Come in and clean up a little bit of stuff over here, and it's gonna be safe that we don't have to do that, and we don't have to worry about the dust coming back on and wiping it in. So we'll do that, and then time to clean it. And she's going home tomorrow, and we got a GTO coming in for some repair work. Very similar to this, just spotting in a few spots for him and shipping that one home too. So
There you go.
all right.
Stuff comes in, stuff goes out.
Well, yeah, those ones, and then
Yeah.
the other ones are here
They,
for a while.
they
but,
hang around for a while,
but yeah, they're moving right along. That 37 should move along pretty good, and we're hoping to have that out at the shows in September. So we'll be pushing on that one.
sounds like a plan, man.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Ben,
Mark. Thank you,
and
guys.
we'll be back.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right, folks, that's all for today out here at Countryside Customs. Thanks to Ben and his crew for being so hospitable and showing us around, letting us check in on some of the projects that they're doing, and showing us a little bit of how-to on how things really get done the proper way, quality work. They're on it. If you saw something you liked, leave a comment in the comment box. I really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to smash the like button, hit the subscribe, and ring the notification bell. It really helps the small channel out and help me get out here and produce more of these videos that you really like. Spring is coming, folks. Get your projects worked on, get things done, get them shined up, tuned up, ready to go, because it'll be here before you know it. I don't care what that groundhog said. Thanks again for watching, and remember, let's go car cruising. Hey, all right, if you like this video, check out this one here, an earlier shop tour of Countryside Customs.